Hi Mrs. Salazar. Sorry to bother you on your break.
Hi Ritish. What are you doing in the staff room? It's lunchtime. You should be playing and enjoying the sunshine.
I know, Mrs. Salazar. It's just that I thought this would be a good time to ask you about the next orator we are studying in class. Gough Whitlam.
Oh, good on you, Ritish. I love it when my students actively seek out knowledge. You make me proud, Ritish.
I just really like all the speeches we are learning about.
Alright. So what would you like to know about Gough Whitlam?
All I know is that he was a former Prime Minister of Australia ages ago.
Gough Whitlam was born July 11, 1916, and he was leader of the Australian Labor Party from 1967 to 1977. He was the 21st Prime Minister of Australia from 1972 until 1975.
Wait. He was only Prime Minister for 3 years? That's not a very long time.
Wait until I tell you about all the things he was able to accomplish in 3 years. But first, let me take you back to his childhood. Whitlam was born of moderately wealthy parents in Kew, a suburb of Melbourne, and educated at private schools in Sydney and Canberra before studying law at the University of Sydney. During the Second World War he served as navigator with the RAF, reaching the rank of flight lieutenant. He completed his studies after the war and was admitted to the New South Wales Bar in 1947.
I had no idea that Whitlam was in the Royal Australian Air Force. That's awesome. What was Whitlam most famous for as Prime Minister?
Before I tell you, let's change up this scene.
Whoa. Where are we, Mrs. Salazar? You are starting to freak me out.
We're at the Parliament House in Canberra. Didn't I tell you that I was magic? Now, where was I? Oh yes, in the space of a little less than 3 years, the Whitlam government took responsibility for university education over from the states and abolished tertiary fees. He opened up the prospect of further education to all Australians. He established the Schools Commission to distribute federal funds to assist non-government schools on a needs basis. He introduced a supporting benefit for single-parent families. He abolished the death penalty for federal crimes.
There was a death penalty in Australia. Good on Whitlam for getting rid of that.
Yes. He also reduced the voting age to 18 years and abolished the White Australia policy.
Whitlam got rid of the White Australia policy? Awesome.
Yes. He also helped to improve media services for immigrants and minority cultures by establishing what would later become SBS. He introduced language programs for non-English speaking Australians, and mandated equal opportunities for women in federal government employment. He appointed women to judicial and administrative positions and set up the National Aboriginal Consultative Committee.
Wow. Go Whitlam. Is there anything else he did?
He was responsible for ending both conscription and the Australian involvement in the Vietnam War. He introduced a universal national health insurance scheme. We now call this Medicare. He sponsored free university education and established diplomatic and trade relations with China.
Is there anything Whitlam couldn't do?
Gough Whitlam left the political scene decades ago, but Aborigines still and always will acknowledge him as the father of land rights in Australia.
Why was he known as the father of land rights in Australia?
At the time Whitlam came to power in 1972, Aborigines in northeast Arnhem Land were reeling from the 1971 Millerton vs. Nabalco case in the Northern Territory Supreme Court, which found that they had no sovereign rights to their land.
Why did they have no rights to their land?
The former government of Robert Menzies had in the 1960s granted Nabalco total rights to mine on the tribal lands of the Yolngu people, without the consent of the traditional owners, whom the court later deemed did not exist in Australian law.
Aboriginal law Australians didn't exist in Australian law? That's not right, Mrs. Salazar.
Whitlam, alert to this injustice, ordered the Woodward Royal Commission in 1973, which recommended the recognition of land rights in the territory. In 1975, Whitlam handed back the Wave Hill lease to Aborigines. In a historic moment he ran sand through the hand of Vincent Linari. Whitlam told him, "Vincent Linari, I solemnly hand to you these deeds as proof in Australian law that these lands belong to the Gurindjeri people, and I put into your hands part of the earth as a sign that this land will be the possession of you and your children forever.
Wow.
Whitlam had by then drafted the Aboriginal Land Rights Act, though would be overthrown before it became law. His successor, Malcolm Fraser, passed the legislation almost unchanged, knowing that the time for recognition had come.
What happened after that?
In 1992, national recognition finally came when the High Court heard the Mobile case and found the doctrine of terra nullius of Australia as an empty land prior to white arrival to be a myth. This led to the creation of native title law, which gave Aborigines cultural and economic rights to their land. All of this tied directly back to the case of Millerpum versus Nabalco. The son of Millerpum, Waniub America, described Whitlam as a very important man. Before him there was no land rights. Whitlam was very helpful to our people, to our fathers. We want to think about his work and we will let his spirit be with us, going forward.
Now I think I know why Gough Whitlam is remembered as the father of Aboriginal land rights in Australia.
Great to hear, British. Now we rewatch the video and take some good quality notes for our CAPE analysis.
You know I will, Mrs. Salazar. I won't let you down. But I have one more question to ask you.
What is it, British?
How do we get back to school?